Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of C4 Scoop. It is after Christmas. I hope everyone is having a good Christmas break from everything, from work, from school, from all that. And, well, this past December, we were blessed loosely with the newest Eminem album, Revival, and it is now time I give my formal 2 cents on it. Much like a lot of people, I have been dying in anticipation for Eminem's newest album ever since he announced it late last 2016. However, as 2017 started nearing a close, we were granted a few singles that left me and others a little confused, and I was left wondering exactly what we would get when it came to this project. And now that Revival is here, and I've had time to contemplate over these 19 tracks, I think I can now give my refined opinion. But before I talk about the album as a whole, I do think it's prudent to comment on each individual song so those of you watching and listening can have a better understanding of my final thoughts, and I won't be going into great depth on the individual songs here like I did my other full album review, because there are 19 tracks here, and I don't want to be yammering all day. Being the first single released after what seemed like eons of waiting for some news of the forthcoming album, Walk on Water left much to be desired. It surprisingly doesn't hit as hard as I believe Eminem meant it to. The instrumental constantly feels like it's building up to something but never really reaches a climax, and throughout the song, Eminem is referencing his perfectionist nature that strangely is a precursor to an album that doesn't showcase that nature. Not to mention, Beyonce's vocals are a little weak, the song overall relies on those weak vocals. Also, after years of waiting and anticipation, did anyone really want to hear a track about Eminem doubting himself? A lackluster opening, to say the least. It seems odd to brag about how awesome you are and then follow it up by asking if people still believe in you. This really seems like a pointless track because if we bought the album, then yes, we believed in you. And if you're so awesome, why did you need to ask if we thought the same thing? It almost seems like Eminem is having some serious confidence issues late in his career. First and foremost, I have to say this song, being the only song to have the only rap feature on the whole album, doesn't exactly use it to its fullest potential, aside from the feature being from someone that has, at most, done a few passable singles. He's not even given a verse to allow himself to shine. Furthermore, it sounds like he only does half the chorus, and M takes over the rest. What was the point of getting a no name on your album only to give him half the chorus? Also, M barely works with this trap like beat and only shines with maybe one or two lines. This one's pretty flat overall. I'm glad that only 4 songs in, we finally get what was promised by this record to cover, a political song, and a good one at that, focusing most of its attention on racial issues still plaguing our culture. The first half is told from the perspective of a racist cop, but I think the second half is where Eminem's perspective is proven to be better because it gets down to the nitty gritty and really starts hitting us with the harsh imagery and provoking wordplay we'd expect from the political side of Eminem, who is so open about his distaste for the current state of America. So here we have a song about cheating and simply letting the bad habit continue because of the mentality when it rains, it pours. This isn't exactly new territory for Eminem, and to be honest, the melodies and lyrics he tries to push through this song kind of get pushed off a cliff. It's weird to say that, but Eminem truly comes out as unimpressive here, and while I don't enjoy a majority of the features on Revival, for some reason I can't help but like Ed Sheeran here because despite the fact that he isn't saying anything new or that interesting, he's just such a gosh darn good singer, and he almost makes the song work for me. I know this isn't a song, but I had to bring this up. Why does Remind Me, the following track, need an intro? It's the only song that has one, and the intro itself is just summarizing what the whole song it's introducing is about. It's absolutely pointless. I'm thankful to say that after a few stinkers, I finally have a track I can latch onto and say I enjoy. I know some people aren't going to be keen on Eminem dirtying up another classic rock anthem, in this case, Joan Jett's I Love Rock and Roll, but hearing this killer instrumental with Eminem Slim Shadyifying it is what I expect, and I honestly get a kick out of it. I recognize there are some really bad lines, but I can look past that because of the beat, because of the classic Slim Shady energy matched with it, and definitely because of the catchy as hell chorus. This one is nasty in all the right ways. I'm sorry, but no. Another political track, this time around attacking Donald Trump and his presidency so far. While I can appreciate the statements he's getting across, I can't help but draw the conclusion that this is just a poppier, more stylized version of his infamous BET cipher this past year. And a lot of people have been saying Eminem's going pop. And while that isn't a new argument, and I've been defending him for years, with this song, it's pretty unmistakably a pop track. On top of that, Eminem seems to be struggling to stay in rhythm with this beat. I'm not entirely sure, but something sounds off about it. And finally, we finish this track review with another totally lackadaisical feature. Sorry, Alicia Keys. This late in your career and this long after your divorce, why do you feel it necessary to apologize to Kim? I understand you may still have feelings about the subject, but this is literally like the umpteenth song about this exact same thing. So it really seems like Eminem ran out of material and resorted to rehashing past topics. And ex-ambassadors, who I had hoped would bring me an enjoyable chorus, just gives me another disappointing listen. There's nothing wrong with making a song about being addicted to a toxic relationship. Eminem has done it in the past, and I have no issue with the subject matter itself. But here he talks about it in such a way that fails to be interesting or even thought provoking. There's very little that could be considered original on this one, and that can be hard for someone that made Love the Way You Lie to do, because that song alone covered all the bases you needed to and did it better. So as a result, Skylar Grey ends up being the most interesting part of the song, even though she again is a feature that doesn't seem to hold any weight, despite what a good singer I think she is. This is a decent return to familiarity as Slim Shady reverts back to a song about murder and slaughter. Some good wordplay and a decent beat to go with it. I'm a little mixed on the chorus, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy this one a little bit. The beat used here sucks. It's so choppy and light, I can't believe Eminem is seriously rapping over this. I can't take his verses seriously because of the beat they chose. Kalani is a contender for the worst feature on this album. I'm sure she's a good artist, but she definitely didn't bring her A game here. The chorus is the most generic thing I've ever heard and just as easily could appear on anyone else's album. Here we have a series of lyrics that for the most part are hit and miss. I think it's fair to say it's likely more miss than hit, and in my opinion ultimately strikes out because of those misses. Offended is the best track on the album. It perfectly shows off Eminem's mastery as a rap artist. Kick-ass lyrics, spot-on delivery, and an almost kindergarten nursery rhyme type chorus that makes me laugh every time I hear it. I'm honestly amazed a song this fantastic exists on an album that so far has been exceedingly disappointing. This is the only song where I feel like we actually get a lot more out of the guest performer than we have from anyone else on this album. Pink delivers some great vocals and feeds into the overall gist of the song, and Eminem doesn't do too bad either. I don't feel like he works as well as he thinks he does with this instrumental, but at least he throws in some decent lyrics and manages to deliver onto us the ideas he's trying to express in a way that doesn't feel tired or repetitive. Maybe I'm missing something, but I get the feeling this track was supposed to be bigger than it was. Maybe it's because it's buried under 16 other songs, or because I really get the sense there is no purpose to this track. I mean, the whole song is basically Eminem reminding himself and the audience about the old days, and I just keep thinking, you know, Eminem, I also want those old days back. At least then you would be back to your days of looking to the future instead of being deadlocked on how cool everyone thought you used to be. All you've accomplished here is making me want to listen to your older stuff as opposed to what you're doing now. I recognize Marshall Mathers writes a lot about his daughter, but here it approaches the subject differently and observes it from the angle of how her father's rise in fame over her life affected her negatively. The song overall is an apology of sorts to his eldest daughter, Haley, and while a lot of songs Eminem puts out that repeat topics over time uh, tend to become lighter in their emotional weight after each use. Anytime he gets to talking about his daughters, it always feels like he's putting his all into the performance. There is no decreasing of emotional weight. It feels very heavy. That emotion really comes out here, and that makes the song for me. I also really like the metaphor used in the chorus relating a king building a castle to Eminem becoming famous. I thought that was genius and wish it was explored a little more, as opposed to referring to events that only range from 1999 to 2007. A good song overall, though. I like this song at first because it's from the perspective of Eminem when he was in the hospital after he overdosed and it didn't look like he would survive. He gets out a lot of heartfelt statements relating to the most significant people in his life. A little at the end, I can't say it falls off entirely, but whatever high note he was trying to go out on got lost for me, even though he ends in a pretty creative way, tying the ending track and final lyrics back to the previous track and its final lyrics. But the message I'm getting from all that is in my mind, something that was already explored on Recovery. I know the album is supposed to be a sequel to Recovery, but does that mean it has to retread old subject matter that was already done to death on both Relapse and Recovery? And that's mainly what I get from this whole project, just a series of ideas that were already established in earlier projects being reopened with little or no expansion on said ideas. All the conclusions drawn in these songs are conclusions we already drew from those projects that were released years ago. That would be tolerable enough, except that Eminem decides instead of focusing on these topics, he also wants to make a political album. He wants to make a more vulnerable album. He wants to include relationship songs and apology songs. There's too much going on and so little connecting it all that sitting down and trying to listen to this thing as a whole, all the way through, is an absolute chore, especially for someone that thought Eminem was and always will be on top of his game. However, when I look back on this project, I see an artist at the end of his rope. I see someone constantly longing for the past instead of soaring for the future. That's not what anyone wanted to see from arguably one of the greatest artists that ever lived. And to tell the truth, I don't think anyone expected this to be the direction Eminem was going. Why would someone that has been able to prove time and again that he is the be all end all of rap think he isn't anymore and whine to be the person he used to be? This whole album is just a mess. There are a few breaks here and there that are too enjoyable for an overall mangled and confusing letdown of an album. This gets a total rating of 2.5 out of 5. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed this review. I hope I didn't seem too mean-spirited. This is just my opinion coming from the perspective of someone that really enjoyed Eminem as an artist. Hopefully he puts out better projects in the future. And just let me know what you thought down in the comments below. If you liked the album, if you didn't like it, give me your reasons and your expectations for the future. And I hope everyone continues having a good Christmas break. Take care.